Whether it's a mysterious creak or a rattle, houses can make some pretty strange noises throughout the day. But the Grahams had to contend with a very distinct sound, humming. And it only got louder as time went on, ratcheting up the tension. What could it be? An expert eventually uncovered the cause, and it left the family dumbstruck. Residents of St. Petersburg, Florida, Dan and Stephanie Graham, live in a stilt house with wooden bodywork that's 3 stories high. The pair have 2 kids together, as well as a couple of dogs, so you can imagine that there was already quite a bit of noise filling their rooms and hallways. Plus, Stephanie would have been all too aware of how odd houses can be when it comes to strange sounds. You don't get that with random creaks, but this leads us to the big question. Where was the sound coming from inside the house? Could it be pinpointed by the Grahams? In the end, Stephanie, Dan, and their kids were able to narrow it down to one room in particular. Yes, the sound seemed excessively loud in their bathroom. Could it have been the pipes? After all, they can get pretty noisy. Well, if Stephanie and company were leaning in that direction, they soon received proof that something else was to blame. As it turns out, the humming was actually buzzing. Simply put, the Grahams had a bee problem. The Floridian family began to notice the noisy critters on a consistent basis inside the bathroom, or more specifically, near their shower. But here's the thing, folks. Neither Dan nor Stephanie were particularly surprised to learn about their buggy visitors. Why is that then? Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story. The Grahams had previous experience with these winged creepy crawlies a few years earlier, and those encounters had come in their bathroom too. It all culminated when Dan decided to finally tear down part of a wall to find out where they were hiding. Incredibly, he went on to locate a very large hive on the other side. Dan carefully took the hive out from behind the wall, thinking that'd be the end of it. And for a while at least, it seemed that way. He and Stephanie didn't see any more bees, and they opted to make some adjustments to the house's exterior. The pair really zoned in on their roof. Mind you, that ultimately came at a cost. While sorting out the roof, several openings appeared above Stephanie and Dan's home. It's believed that other bees saw this as a prime opportunity to get inside, and they didn't waste their chance. From there, the relentless humming eventually started to fill the air. That must have been pretty frustrating for the Grahams, right? They were back at square one. Well, not quite. You see, Dan and Stephanie didn't really mind that bees had made a home inside their house again. The pair were willing to put up with it, from the sounds to the odd sting or two. Why, though? The mom explained, "We both really love nature and we love bees. We're like, we'll leave you alone, you leave us alone." They were nice bees, so we were like, sure, go ahead, live in our shower. Yes, unfortunately for the bees, this wholesome arrangement couldn't last forever. Stephanie and Dan made plans to restructure their entire bathroom, which meant the second hive behind the wall needed to go. This time, though, they didn't want to do it themselves. Instead, the couple called in a specialist. Yep, Dan and Stephanie spoke to a woman named Alicia Bixler in the fall of 2021. She runs a beekeeping business known as How's Your Day, Honey, which includes services such as bee removal. Alicia soon discovered that this wouldn't be the easiest of tasks. Ahead of arriving at the Grahams' home, Alicia had racked up roughly 3 years' worth of experience as a beekeeper. Up to then, most of the hives she'd dealt with were located in spots such as trees, roofs, and garden sheds, so a family bathroom was a new one for her. But before she could do anything else, the expert needed to confirm that there was indeed a beehive behind the bathroom wall. To do that, she equipped herself with a thermal detector gun, a device that records temperatures. Given that most of the bees were near the shower, Alicia knew where to look, so she directed the gun at that area, bringing up a measurement of about 96 degrees Fahrenheit. That all but confirmed that a hive of some sort was back there, as they generate a similar amount of warmth. Now the beekeeper could finally get started. Unlike for Dan a few years earlier, this was a job Alicia would have been more than familiar with at the time. After all, she was a professional. But still, we can't help wondering how risky the task actually is. Well, beekeeping as a whole isn't without its dangers, regardless of your experience level. Yes, depending on the type of bee you're dealing with, there are certain risks to take note of. For instance, if you're facing down European honeybees, you've got to be careful near their hive's entrance. By disturbing it, or even just approaching its vicinity, you could encourage the insects to attack. And that's not all. On top of that, European honeybees hate shaking as well. So if you're transporting a hive from one place to another, you've got to take your time. Motion will undoubtedly create tremors and make them extremely angry. Those two risks in particular probably would have been at the forefront of Alicia's mind then. Yet nothing could prepare her for what was coming. Once she put her thermal gun away, Alicia then looked to make inroads on the bathroom wall. Speaking to the New York Times in December 2021, she recalled, "As soon as I saw where the bees were, I started breaking away the tile and unveiled this massive 7-foot hive. Most of it was honey." That isn't a typo, folks. 7 feet. Talk about a big surprise. While the hive taken out by Dan was sizable, it had nothing on this monster. But now we're really curious. How many bees were actually staying inside that humongous structure? Alicia suspected that roughly 80,000 bees had made their home in the Graham's bathroom wall. No wonder the humming was so loud. That's crazy. How did all of this happen, though? In the opinion of another expert, the critters that had stayed there before might have had something to do with it. Anyway, Alicia needed to devise a strategy. To start with, the beekeeper stuck a protective covering over her head before approaching the hive. Yet she soon discovered that wouldn't be enough. While carefully chipping away at the giant structure, Alicia suffered a few bee stings. On that note, she decided to slip on some thick boots and gloves for the rest of the job. Alicia told the newspaper there was honey everywhere, on the walls, floor, on my shoes, the doorknobs. I had to pull the wall down to the studs to get all of the comb out. Stephanie did come into the bathroom about halfway through and take a peek. Winnie the Pooh would have been in dreamland. As for the bees, Alicia slowly moved them into a container away from the hive, looking out for one in particular. Yep, she wanted to locate the queen. The critter wouldn't have been hard to miss. She's a lot bigger than the others in the colony. And after a while, the expert finally stumbled across her. From there, Alicia dropped the queen into a protective cage by herself. Once she was secured, the cage was then positioned in the container. The beekeeper explained, "That makes all the bees go into the box with her. She wants to be back on her wall. She thinks that's her home." At that stage, Alicia could zone in on those that didn't follow the queen, picking them up via a so-called special vacuum. In total, the mammoth job lasted over 5 hours. As we noted earlier, rushing it would be extremely risky. In truth, the task isn't as daunting as you might think. There are several steps beekeepers can take to relax their bees, and they aren't that complex. Using Alicia's situation as an example, a limited human presence can do wonders for the colony once they've been moved to a different spot. Sure, a bit of interaction's necessary to observe the hive and the honey being produced, but you shouldn't linger for too long. Your handling's another thing to consider. Remember what we said about that before? The less you shake up the colony when tending to them, the better. No matter how comfortable the bees got with Alicia, though, they weren't staying with her long term. Instead, after ensuring that the colony was well enough, she'd be sending them off to a new home. A nice apiary has to be a step up from a bathroom wall, wouldn't you say? If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.